He told the deputy, "I'm with the Bureau." The reply? Doesn't matter. 10 minutes later, he was the one in cuffs. It was exactly 6:42 p.m. when Darius Coleman noticed flashing lights behind him. The sky still held a soft orange tint, spilling over the rooftops in Halston County, South Carolina. Kids were pedaling bikes up and down the block, a few sprinklers clicking rhythmically in quiet front yards. And Darius? He just wanted to get home. He'd left Greenville nearly 2 hours earlier, after a long, uneventful day with the Interagency Task Unit, mostly briefings, strategy sessions, some paperwork, no raids, no arrests, no drama, just stale coffee and a clipboard full of notes. Now he was driving through a calm suburban area, no more than 25 minutes from his place in Somerville. He wasn't in a hurry. His black Charger rolled smoothly along the road at 28 miles per hour. No music, no calls, just the low hum of the AC and the soft tread of tires on asphalt. Then he saw the sheriff's SUV. No siren, just lights. It pulled in fast and tight behind him. Darius let out a long breath through his nose. He clicked on his signal and eased to the curb. This wasn't his first time being stopped. But that didn't make it feel normal. Not for someone who looked like him, driving through this kind of neighborhood. He switched off the engine, rolled the window halfway down, and raised both hands high on the steering wheel. Clear. Visible. Controlled. Every motion careful. Intentional. The officer stepped out, white male, stocky frame, maybe 6 feet tall. Dark shades, even though the sun was nearly gone. His right hand rested, just casually enough, near the holster. No greeting. No name, just a stare like he was already expecting trouble. "You live around here?" Darius didn't move his head. "Eyes forward." Calm voice. "I do." The officer tilted his head, as if doubting him. "License and registration." Darius gave a slow nod. "Okay. My wallet's in the jacket on the passenger seat. Registration's in the glove box. I'm reaching slowly." The deputy didn't respond, just kept watching. Darius moved with precision, first the wallet, then the registration. He set both on the dashboard before handing them over. "Mind telling me why you stopped me?" The officer glanced at the items. "Didn't take them. You were creeping." "Creeping?" "Yeah. Driving slow, looking at houses. Got a call about it." Darius blinked. "I was going 28, just trying to get home." "You got anything in the car I need to know about?" Darius stared. "Excuse me?" "Just wondering if there's a reason you're acting jumpy." He stifled a dry laugh. "I'm not nervous. I'm exhausted. Been on the clock since 7. Just want to get home." "Step out of the vehicle." Darius hesitated. "For what?" That was a command. Deep breath. This was escalating. Fast. "Officer," he said, reaching slowly toward the passenger seat. "I'm a federal agent. My ID and badge are right here in my wallet. If you'll take a look, I don't care who you claim to be. Out. Now." Those words struck harder than a shout, not because of the volume, but because of the meaning behind them. Darius opened the wallet, raised it up to the open window. His ID plainly visible, badge catching the last flicker of sunlight. Special Agent Darius Coleman, Charleston Field Office. "I'm not a threat. I'm just trying to get home." The deputy didn't even glance at the badge. Didn't blink. Into his radio, he said, "Got a male refusing commands. Claims he's with federal law enforcement. Requesting backup." Darius clenched. His jaw. Not out of anger. Out of control. This wasn't confusion anymore. It was intentional. Before he could speak again, he saw the officer's hand drift closer to his belt. He knew what was coming. Darius stayed still. Didn't twitch. He kept the badge high in the air, eyes steady on the man in front of him. "Sir," he repeated, his tone hard as concrete, "you're making a serious mistake." The officer's name tag read, Patrolman V. Keller. Not a rookie. but not a supervisor either. The kind of guy who thought he had something to prove. Keller barked. "I won't ask you again. Out of the car, hands visible." Darius looked him straight in the eye. No fear, just clarity. "I've already identified myself. You haven't explained the reason for the stop and you haven't looked at my credentials." Keller's mouth twitched. That tone, calm, measured, like Darius knew the law better than he did. He didn't like. "That you think flashing a fake badge lets you mouth off like that?" Darius didn't reply. He unbuckled his seatbelt, opened the door, and stepped out slowly with his hands raised. "I'm complying," he said, "but you better hear me clearly. I am not resisting. I'm not a danger, and you need to call your supervisor, right now." Keller moved in fast, shoved Darius in the shoulder, not enough to knock him down, just enough to send a message. This wasn't about safety. It was about control. Darius didn't move, didn't react. "I'm not warning you as a private citizen," he said, his voice calm, but razor sharp. "I'm speaking as a federal officer. Everything you're doing right now is going to be reviewed. Every second, every choice." Keller was breathing heavier, chest out like he was in a boxing match. He stepped closer. "You threatening me?" "No," Darius answered. "That's not a threat. That's a fact." For a moment, there was only silence. Then Keller spun him around, grabbed his arms, and forced them behind his back. Darius didn't fight, not because he couldn't, but because refusing to resist was the most powerful thing he could do. The cuffs came out. One snapped tight on his wrist. That's when people started watching. Across the street, a woman watering her flowers stopped, hose dangling from her hand. A man paused mid-step while walking his dog. Phones appeared. Screens lit up. From a nearby porch, a teenager held up a phone and hit record. Darius caught his eye, said nothing. Let the camera roll. "I want this to be very clear," Darius said, loud enough for all to hear. "I am Special Agent Darius Coleman with the Department of Federal Investigation. This detention is unlawful. I have not resisted. This officer is violating protocol." "Keep talking," Keller muttered. "We'll see what you say from the backseat of my car." Then his radio crackled. "Back up en route. ETA. 2 minutes." Keller turned Darius toward the hood of the Charger, leaned in close. "I don't care who you say you are. You don't belong in this neighborhood. And if you're lying, you'll regret it." Darius didn't blink, didn't show fear. He was boiling inside, but his voice stayed steady, cold, controlled. "You don't get to decide who belongs, and your badge doesn't cancel out mine." Keller said nothing, just snapped the second cuff shut, too tight, on purpose. Darius inhaled deeply and stared straight ahead. The street had fallen silent. Even the cicadas had gone quiet. Then, far down the block, he saw them, more patrol cars. Turning the corner, red and blue lights dancing across the houses. Reinforcements had arrived, and with them, a reckoning. The first backup cruiser pulled in fast, lights still flashing. Another followed behind, slower, easing to a stop just a few feet from Keller's SUV. The front door of the lead car swung open. Out stepped a tall woman in uniform, mid-40s, lean build, dark hair pulled back into a tight, no-nonsense bun. She walked like someone who made decisions and didn't second-guess them. Lieutenant Selena Hartley. She took in the scene instantly. Black man in cuffs, black Dodge Charger, white officer with puffed-up shoulders and a face still flushed with power, and all around them, on both sides of the street, people watching, recording, waiting. "Status?" Her voice rang out firm but composed. Keller snapped to attention, speaking too loud. Subject was acting suspicious, claimed to be federal, refused to exit his vehicle when ordered, non-compliant. Lieutenant Hartley turned to Darius. She scanned him quickly, the stillness, the composure, his silence. Then her eyes landed on the badge wallet resting on the roof of the car. She stepped over, picked it up. opened it. It took 2 seconds. Her eyes flicked up, first to Keller, then back to Darius. "Special Agent Coleman?" she asked. He nodded once. "That's me." Keller's expression cracked. "Wait." "What?" Hartley closed the wallet firmly in her hand. "You cuffed a federal agent?" she asked, cold. He didn't cooperate, was driving slow. "Looking at houses. Someone phoned it in. I followed procedure." "Procedure?" she echoed, her voice sharpening. "What part of the manual tells you to ignore identification and slap on cuffs without verifying credentials?" Keller opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Hartley turned toward Darius. "Agent Coleman, are you hurt?" "No, just insulted." She nodded once. "I'm having those cuffs removed immediately. What happened to you shouldn't have." She glanced back. "Officer Ramirez, uncuff him." A younger patrolman approached, hesitated, then did as ordered. Darius rolled his wrists as the cuffs came. "Off." Red marks were already showing. "Are you armed?" Hartley asked, eyes checking his belt. "Not on duty. No weapon." She gave a slight nod, processing quickly. Keller stepped forward again, grasping for control. "Lieutenant, if I may." He didn't clearly say who he was. He was vague. "I was responding to a call." "Was the vehicle reported stolen?" she asked. "No." "Was he aggressive?" "No," Keller muttered. "Did he resist?" Keller paused. "He had an attitude." Hartley raised both eyebrows. "An attitude." Silence. "I want your body cam now." "In the car," he mumbled. "Then go." As Keller stomped back toward his SUV, Darius took a step closer to Hartley. He kept his voice low. "You saved him." He was seconds away from a memory he'd never shake off. Hartley nodded. "I've seen that look in too many men, some decent, some dangerous. That wasn't law enforcement. That was ego." Darius turned slightly, glancing toward the group of neighbors still watching. Some whispered. The teen on the porch still had his phone aimed. Darius wasn't embarrassed. He was aware, completely aware of how easily this night could have ended differently, and who would have been blamed. Just before Keller returned, Darius turned his eyes back to his car, because whatever came next was no longer about ego, it was about truth. Keller marched back, holding the body cam unit like he had something to prove. Lieutenant Hartley didn't say a word. She simply extended her hand. He hesitated, then handed it over. She pressed play. Nearby officers shifted in the heat, watching in silence. The sun was nearly gone now, just a faint orange stripe behind rooftops. But the street still glowed, from police lights, from the judgment in a dozen. Phone screens, the footage was crystal clear. Darius's voice was calm, measured, professional. "You live around here?" "I do." "My wallet's in my jacket. Registration's in the glove box." "Officer, I'm with federal law enforcement." "I've identified myself." "You haven't explained the reason for the stop." The longer it played, the more... Hartley's face tightened, jaw set, eyes darkened. She didn't need to ask questions. She had everything she needed. Darius stood just a few feet away, arms crossed, watching her, not the video. Keller looked at the screen too. But his face was unreadable. Hartley clicked off the footage and handed the device back. "You broke protocol," she said flatly. "You escalated a peaceful stop without cause. You ignored a valid federal ID. And you detained a government agent without legal justification." Keller shifted awkwardly, his face flushed red. "Lieutenant, the guy had an attitude. He was confrontational. That's not how a stop's supposed to go." "He had an attitude?" Her voice didn't rise, but it cut like glass. "You ever consider that maybe his attitude came from being pulled over in his own neighborhood for driving under the speed limit?" Keller opened his mouth to answer. She shut it down with a single glance. "Enough. I'm filing a formal report with Internal Affairs. Effective immediately, you're suspended from duty, pending investigation." "You're serious?" he said. Disbelief cracking in his voice. "You think I'm brushing this off?" She shot back. "There are cameras everywhere. That body cam you brought me, it matches every second of the public footage already online. Keller stood there, stunned. He didn't understand how this flipped so quickly. Accountability wasn't something he'd met often, and never like this. Lieutenant Hartley stepped forward, eye to eye. You cuffed a federal agent who was doing absolutely nothing wrong. You thought your badge protected you. It doesn't. You don't get to make your own rules just because you're uncomfortable. Darius looked down. His wrists were still red, still sore. I'm not here for an apology, he said. I'm here for accountability. Hartley gave a small nod. You're going to get it. Just then, the teenager from the porch took a few steps closer. You got it all? Darius asked him. The boy nodded. Every second. Good, Darius replied. Keep it safe. The kid swallowed. You all right, sir? Darius didn't respond right away. He looked over at Keller, who now stood frozen, trying to figure out how control slipped from his hands in under 20 minutes. Then Darius turned back to the boy. I will be, he said. Keller glanced down at his radio like it might offer an escape. It didn't. Ramirez, Hartley called out. Take Officer Keller into custody. Standard process. Miranda. Cuffs. Same as anyone else. The silence snapped tight. Even the air went still. Even the birds stopped. Ramirez blinked. You want me to... You heard me. Keller's face went pale. Wait, you're arresting me? You assaulted a federal officer and falsified your report. That's not a procedural mistake. That's a crime. Darius said nothing. He didn't need to, as Keller was turned around and, cuffed like any other suspect, Darius looked away, not out of pity, but because justice isn't about watching someone fall, it's about stopping them from pulling others down with them. The crowd stayed quiet, but the air felt thick, like the entire street was holding its breath. Keller didn't say a word as Ramirez brought his hands behind his back. The click of the cuffs rang louder than it should have. No protest, no fight, just silence. A man too shocked to understand how quickly it all fell apart. Lieutenant Hartley didn't gloat. No smirk, no satisfaction, just focus. Put him in your vehicle, she said. I'll document the charges. Ramirez nodded, still wrapping his head around what he'd just been ordered to do. Darius stepped back to his car, rubbing at his wrists, then leaned against the driver's side door. He looked across the street. The woman with the garden hose was still standing in place, frozen, unmoving. The man with the dog was now holding his phone in both hands. This wasn't just a traffic stop gone sideways. It had become something else, something witnessed, something real. Lieutenant Hartley approached again, hands behind her back, posture straight, tone respectful. I'm sorry, Agent Coleman. No justifications. This should never have happened. Darius gave a small nod. I appreciate it. But let's not act like it's unusual. Hartley didn't look away. It's not. But tonight someone saw it. And that changes things. They stood in the twilight, the weight of the moment still clinging to the air like heat that refuses to fade. Would you prefer to submit an internal complaint or have your department handle it directly? She asked. I'll go through bureau channels, Darius said, but I want access to all the footage. His, yours, everything. You'll have it, she replied. Already backed up and secured. He nodded again, then tilted his head. Mind if I see your angle? Just once more. She paused, then tapped her body cam. The small screen lit up. Between them, glowing blue. There he was, sitting behind the wheel. Still, controlled, holding out his ID, speaking with respect. Level, even when Keller raised. His voice, even when the temperature rose. Officer, I'm with the Bureau. You think I care who you are? Get out, now. This is a mistake. Hands where I can see them. Darius watched it play out like it was someone else on that screen. Someone who stayed calm when everything in him wanted to shout. Then came the moment the cuffs snapped on. Click. Click. He closed his eyes for a breath. "You mind sending that to me?" he asked quietly. "Already did," Hartley replied. A voice broke. In from behind them. "You were real composed, man." Darius turned. It was the teenager, 16 maybe, still filming. "You didn't yell, didn't swing, didn't even flinch." "I shouldn't have to," Darius answered. The kid looked down. "If that were me, I don't know if I could have held it together like that." Darius stepped closer, his tone serious, but calm. "You don't owe anyone your calm just to stay alive. That's not a rule, that's survival. But the truth is, sometimes survival requires it." The kid nodded slowly, but his eyes said more: fear, respect, maybe even anger. "What's your name?" Darius asked. "Jaden." "All right, Jaden. Keep that footage safe. Not for me, for you." Jaden nodded, eyes wide. "Yes, sir." Darius turned back to the charger. He placed a hand on the roof, like he needed something solid beneath him. But before he could climb inside, Hartley spoke again. Her voice carried from across the street. She wasn't moving toward him this time. She stood by the front of her cruiser. Voice steady. "Before you leave, I'll need a formal witness statement. You want to do it here or at the station?" Darius looked down the road. Some of the neighbors were walking back inside, but others still watched, still waiting. Jaden was still near the curb, thumbs moving fast across his screen, probably uploading the clip already. "I'll come by tomorrow," Darius said. "For now, I just need to go home." Hartley nodded. No resistance. Understood. He opened the charger's door. But before sliding in, he paused. "You think anything will actually happen to him?" Hartley folded her arms, took a breath. "I can't guarantee consequences," she said. "But I can guarantee truth. And sometimes, that's where accountability begins." He took that in, not as comfort, but as honesty. As he sat behind the wheel, Hartley added one last thing. "For what it's worth, thank you. For staying composed. For holding a higher standard than he ever gave you reason to." Darius just nodded. "I didn't. Do it for him." He closed the door, started the engine, and pulled slowly away from the curb. The sun had vanished now. Streetlights flickered to life, one by one. But Darius didn't rush. He rolled down the window, let the night air touch his face, and drove toward Somerville, wrists still aching, mind sharper than ever. Back at the scene, Lieutenant Hartley watched the black Charger disappear. Then she turned toward the cruiser. Keller sat inside, red-faced, stunned. His mouth moved, but no words came out. He looked like a man just realizing that the badge on his chest wasn't a shield against accountability. Hartley stepped up to the window. "You're being charged with unlawful detainment, excessive force, and failure to follow proper ID verification protocol." Keller blinked. "Karina, you're really doing this? You think this doesn't apply to you?" "I made a call," he argued. "Based on behavior." "I thought he was faking it." "You didn't think," she snapped. "You didn't verify. You didn't pause. You didn't even glance at the ID because you didn't care about facts. You cared about control." He laughed, bitter and cracked. "So, I'm the villain now?" "No," she said. "You're the one who thought the rules were only written for other people." She stepped back, tapped the window. "Take him in." The cruiser pulled away. A few neighbors clapped. Just 2 or 3, soft, uncertain, but real. Not for the arrest, but because for once someone stepped in and actually did something. Jaden walked up beside her, still holding the phone, eyes on the patrol car. "You think he'll lose his badge?" Hartley glanced down at him. "Depends on who's watching." The kid nodded. "They're watching now." She didn't reply, just gave a single nod, then turned back to her car. The next morning, Darius's phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from higher-ups, emails from legal, a few press contacts, all wanting statements, details, a reaction. But Darius didn't respond right away. Instead, he sat at his kitchen table, black coffee in hand, watching Jaden's video on repeat, the way Keller barked commands, the way Darius stayed composed. The moment Hartley stepped in and ended it, not delayed, not softened, ended. He shut off the screen, looked out the window. Justice doesn't always arrive loud. Sometimes it's someone showing up and doing the damn job. If you're watching, this thinking, that could have been me. You're not wrong. This happens. Every day. What changes things is when people are held accountable, no matter what uniform they wear. So speak, record, share, stand firm when it matters, because respect isn't defined by a badge, it's defined by how you carry it. And the next time someone believes their badge makes them untouchable, remind them this. Real authority doesn't need to shout. It just knows when to do what's right.